But I have a question for you because I've asked Ben this too. If you had to pick probably your favorite title belt, I mean ever, your favorite wrestling title belt ever, which one would it be? I know there's
I was. It shifts between week to week depending on my mood. It's either the original NWA or WCW Big Gold World Heavyweight title, or the undisputed WWF or E Championship sitting behind me. Those two belts, it's always one of those two. I don't think anything will ever compare to those two titles. I was a WCW fanboy growing up, and my favorite era of WWE was the 2002 Ruthless Aggression era, where that title was king. So either one of those.
You bring up a good thing because I've noticed there's been kind of a so like people our age growing up, there was always this kind of not even nostalgia, but just like reverence for the Attitude Era. And right now, it seems like younger wrestling fans who are discovering the Ruthless Aggression Era are making a lot of good points. Like we bitch moaned and complained about it a lot, but it was a really good time to watch wrestling during the Ruthless Aggression Era. And I'm seeing a lot of videos on YouTube where they're pointing out like this feud and this feud, like these were some of the best feuds in wrestling history. And it's like, it seems like that reverence for the Attitude Era isn't going away, but it seemed to have gone down a bit over time. Would you agree with that, you two?
You want to take it, Ben?
I say that Ruthless Aggression Era was a good time period for wrestling fans because it was the invention of Brock Lesnar and John Cena and Randy Orton and all these other great stars that came out of that era, especially when, with the title belts and everything. It was a great time for wrestling when you didn't really have another option for wrestling, especially when you had the draft of Raw and SmackDown. Then you can go from, are you a Raw fan or you're a SmackDown fan? Because technically, when the Monday Night Wars was over, you didn't have any other option but WWE. But then again, they did the draft split with all the people that they did have. So now you can be a Raw fan or a SmackDown fan.
To me, it seemed like that's what they were trying to do, but to me, it never seemed like there was actually separation. At least to me, it was always still WWE. Particularly when they started really intermingling the two brands. Like later on, there wasn't really any separation. Like your WWE champion would show up on Raw, and then he would be on SmackDown too, and then vice versa. It just seemed like the champions were always moving, and they were always. It just seemed like okay, Raw's on Monday and SmackDown's on Thursday, Friday, whenever they had it that month.
Hazard, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm biased because Ruthless Aggression was my favorite era. The thing is, like with wrestling, fan of Daniel Bryan when he was WWE champion a couple of years ago said that wrestling fans were fickle, and I don't think there's ever been a more accurate statement because people remember nostalgia. And they remember all the good stuff. They don't remember the bad stuff. So people who like crap on WWE today, like the zombie thing a few days ago that I heard about, gouging people's eyes out. In the Attitude Era that everyone loved and think was perfect, you had Val Venus having his male body parts chopped off by a samurai sword. You had Mae Young giving birth to a hand. You had just as ridiculous stuff, but people don't acknowledge that. They only remember the good stuff or, oh, that was great back in its day, but we're living in a different time now. So when I look at the Attitude Era, I remember a lot of good stuff, but there was equally as much stupid and bad stuff. Whereas the Ruthless Aggression Era, it was more about the wrestling. Like you had Edge, Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Benoit, the Guerreros, Brock, Triple H, Cena, Michaels. And you had, in my opinion, the best sort of locker room of talent for in-ring work. And I'm always like a wrestling fan first and then sort of an entertainment guy second. And with the brand split from, I'd say it worked from 2002 up until 2005, where you had the SmackDown sort of roster that were the wrestlers, Taker, Brock, Angle, Edge, Mysterio, Benoit. And then on Raw, you had the entertainment side. You had Kane, Triple H, Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, that kind of thing. So there was, to me, a separation. I've always been a SmackDown person. That's always been my favorite brand when there was a split on. But that's why I prefer the Ruthless Aggression Era. I love the Attitude Era. It had great moments. Anything with Rock or Austin or those guys was great. Other stuff and the ring work, the actual wrestling, not so much.